Boys and girls, welcome to my channel. I'm for Classic and welcome to BenchART. So for today, what I do have needed is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and yet it's another day that I'm going to try the RX 6700 XT and see how it performs on Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. So I'm starting off with 1080p using high settings and ultra textures because we have a lot of VRAM to spare, so we can push the textures. But I'm starting off using upscaling. So I'm using FSR3 on its quality mode to upscale from 720p to 1080p. The question is, it is really necessary to use upscaling. We'll see about that later. So for now, with native resolution, high settings, ultra textures, I'm having pretty much so far a frame rate above 80, the majority of the time above 85. So it seems very stable, no stutters, so super great experience in my opinion, and it is to be expected given that this game it is using still very old technology from CryEngine. And but when I say old, it might mean like it's bad looking, but it isn't. It is old, but it is just working really well. I would love that every game would look like this, or most of them would look like this, because it does look really good and it performs very decently. Now I've decided to move on to a second area in here, and performance is not different. So even overlooking the water, it does improve the performance, not really decreases it. Okay, so it's nothing special. It's just screen space reflections. But looking back into the amount of grass that we are seeing, and the shadowing area of the trees and everything, it just performs above 85. So I played more than 1 hour throughout Kingdom Come 2. I'm pretty sure there will be demanding moments inside the game, but this one, it is the most demanding moment I did find um, during 2 hours of gameplay. It's essentially in this moment. I'm not sure if it is because of the foliage mixed up with the water reflections and seeing one of the main characters almost nude. I'm not really sure why, but this moment specifically, it is the most demanding moment I did find, and I will use this moment as a reference inside the rest of the video to fasten up a little bit the video and try out other resolutions and settings. But still, I decided to also include a little bit of a cross through the woods like this. So I'm starting in here in this cabin over here, and I decided to just take the path. I haven't gone exactly inside the woods, but I've took a path. But inside the woods was mostly the same in regarding performance, so I was about getting these 80 to 100 frames per second to 110. So it performs really well. FSR3 doesn't work very bad in here. There is obviously these occlusion artifacts and issues with the particles, but overall it's fine. But still, I decide to try it out and play the game with the exact same settings as before, which is high settings. But I've decided to disable any upscaling technology and decide to go with the default what the game has. And the game have SMAA 22X. Alright, it's an old school technique that exists more and less in between the TXAA from NVIDIA and the TAA solution. So it's unfortunately very blurry. It's not really ideal, but it does get the job done. And still, it's native resolution, which in some ways it does look obviously better than FSR3, since on FSR we are upscaling on its quality mode from 720p to 1080p. So yeah, it is to be expected that playing natively, of course, it would look better. Although there are some things that I don't enjoy with SMAA22X, it does look much more blurrier than FSR. I have some doubts about why this happens. I believe FSR3, I believe, no, I'm pretty sure FSR3 does have a sharpen filter that comes by default at 50%, I guess, and that sharpen filter really solves the blurriness issues. But of course, we are upscaling from 720p to 1080p. There are the FSR issues, but I mean, SMA22X, despite doesn't have any of those issues, it is just way too blurry. I mean, I'm not sure if there are any tools inside AMD Radeon software or any DLL or any plugin that you can use inside this game to put the SMA22X a little bit more sharpened than what it actually is. But then there is also another issue. When I'm trying to play this area here, I can see that the game did drop from 60 frames per second to 59. Oh, the horror. Come on, it's 59 frames. Yeah, it's not a big deal, but I mean, this game it is huge. I'm not really sure what I'm going to find throughout the rest of the game. And in less than 1 hour, I have this specific spot where I could throw the game to under 60 frames per second. Alright, so there is a lot of questions in my mind that if the game will handle above 60 frames per second throughout the majority of the game with 1080p high settings and textures on ultra. But for what it seems, and throughout many areas that I did try, it seems that it will hold. As you can see in here, even inside the hoods, it's just above 90, above 80, so it seems pretty cool. I think it's actually doing very well with it. I'm just not sure about certain type of hoods with water or just the cities. I have no idea. And then just for fun, I decided to also try the game at 1080p ultra settings, and also I'm going to use FSR free on its native form. So this is what would be the solution for my issues. It would be to play with FSR free on native, and you might question myself something like, but why don't you use FSR free native instead of SMAA22X? Well, it's mostly because it's more demanding, you know. So the places where I do have 60 frames per second with SMAA22X, while using FSR free in its native form, what I do get it's like 55 or 54. So if I'm already dropping below 60, if I'm going to use a more advanced technique like FSR free in its native form, uh, well, it's just going to be worse, you know. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, just for fun, I decided to go with Ultra, use FSR3 in its native form, native resolution, I mean. And the performance is it's cool. I mean, it's not 60. I'm assuming that you don't want to target 60 when you play like this. I don't think that it is enough for a good FreeSync experience. I mean, overall, I've been above 48, but sometimes it does drop below the 48 frames per second in here, also 45. So I'm not really sure how well most of the monitors will deal with having a variable refresh rate going as low as 39, just like you saw right now. And now, of course, inside this area, it can go even worse. And 38. So 37. So it doesn't seem like a good idea for a variable refresh rate screen. So I think this is a good setting if you want to lock to 30 frames per second or something like that. It seems cool. Yeah, there is also an experimental setting in case you want to try it out, but it's just going to punish the system way more. I didn't even try it because I think that using experimental would need probably a better CPU. Maybe, I'm just assuming. And using experimental, for me it would only make sense if ultra settings was already running above 60 frames per second. So I decided to not go with it. So very quickly, 1080p, if you want to target 60 frames per second, just use 1080p high settings, and then decide if you want to use FSR for in its quality mode, or if you want to use the native SMA22X, or if you're going to search for a mode that does improve sharpen, or check if AMD gaming software does add something with it, just search for that. Now it's time for 1440p. Okay, so for 1440p, this is my favorite way of playing the game. It's essentially median settings with textures on ultra and while using FSR free in its quality mode. And this looks much better because of course we are upscaling more and less through 900p or something like that to 1440p. So the results in visual clarity, it is so much better in that sense. And median settings, it still does look very good in my opinion. It's just mostly the draw distance that you can notice a little bit of more popping, especially in the shadows and the distance of the grass. You can see the grass being rendered in front of you. So yeah, there's those issues in my opinion with the median settings, but it does look acceptably very good in my opinion. And if you have a 1440p screen, at least you know that you can have a way to enjoy at 60 frames per second and have a good visual with a GPU that already has like 4 years old at the moment. Okay, so let's check it out the second area of the map, and just like the very beginning, it just plays above 85 frames per second in here. Let's just go near the lake, where we know that it just runs much better, but then do a 180-degree turn and see what it does. Okay, let's turn now, and 79. So oh my god, it's super above 60, so no issues with this. And let's um, let's check it out, the water scene in here, just to understand how it runs. And oh my god, it just runs very well in here. It's above 70 frames per second, 71, 70, 71. Even if it drops to 69 or 68, I think it's an excellent result in my opinion. So it's super stable. I think it's awesome. It's a good setting for you to try out. Although, like I said, you are going to miss out a little bit in popping. And there is another thing that happens when you have high settings, which is you don't have parallax occlusion mapping on median settings, which is something really great. And you can enable it by putting the shading in high, or the shaders in high instead of median if you want. But apart from that, it's mostly just popping, and that's about it. Now, throughout the rest of the video, I will just, instead of showing all these sequences, I'm just going to choose it, I mean, to show you the scenes in the water for the rest of the settings so that we can understand what is the worst case scenario for each setting. So here we are with 1440p high settings with FSR quality. Alright, and as you can see, it's dropping below 60. In fact, it's spending most of its time below 60 frames per second. I think it's a good option if you have a variable refresh rate screen, in my opinion. Now it's 1440p native resolution with the high settings, and it's a little bit more aggressive, so it's dropping to 46, um, 45. I don't know if variable refresh rate works really well with these frame rates or not, but it's overall above 45, which is not really that bad in my opinion. So it's cool. Um, Now let's move on to 1440p ultra settings and FSR3 on its native mode, just for fun. And right now it's 32 frames per second, 31, 30. It's going to drop below 30, that's for sure. So it's hard to recommend. Come on, don't don't play at 1440p ultra. Just use any other setting if you want to enjoy the game. And yes, that's what you can expect. 29 frames per second. 31. Okay. The other scenes are about above 40, but yeah, the river is complicated. Now let's go with something different. 4K, low settings, FSR3 in its performance mode, which means that we are upscaling from 1080p to 4K. Low settings does look really
hear that? Do you think they might be bathing? Come on, let's get closer. Hear that singing? They must be close. Crouch down, you ox. They'll see you.